Hello, FewCandy here, and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines. And we are back in Auridon. So we're just having a look at the moment at what we did in the last episode, which was the zoned forestry area and also this generic industry complex, factory complex, whatever you want to call it. I saw a few comments comparing it to a brewery. Totally get those vibes from that red brick, so love that comparison. Absolutely agree. But yeah, we completely transformed this area, so I was pretty happy with the results from that actually. Because yeah, it is a challenge to use some of those generic industry assets. Some of them are just truly awful, and particularly when they're paired next to other of them, they just don't go. There's no common theme at all. Hopefully we've managed to bring a bit of consistency to it there. But for today, I just wanted to start off by naming some of our districts and some of our parks, because we've had some great suggestions come in the comments, so thank you so much for all of the suggestions that everyone's put forward. So the first thing that I want to name is our park, and there was a really great suggestion come in, well, the first time that I saw the suggestion come in, because I know there were a few of you that mentioned it, it was from Kemar7779, who suggested that we call it the Siobhan Williams Park after our founding resident, which I absolutely love. And I know there was someone else who mentioned that, and also a couple of you who mentioned Founders Park as well, so very similar idea. So this is what we're going to go for, the Siobhan Williams Park. So the second name that I wanted to put in was for this district here, which we actually haven't zoned in yet, so we'll go ahead and do that. And the suggestion came in from Haxwood, which was to call it Woodhaven. And that was inspired by the woody trees throughout the area alongside the tranquil vibe of the waterfront. Absolutely love it. Great name. Thank you very much. So we've got Woodhaven. And the other thing that I actually really like to do in this game is go around and name all of my service buildings. So yeah, we're just going to name the elementary school, the Woodhaven Elementary School, for example. And we'll also come over here, we've got a police station here, and we're also going to call this the Woodhaven Police Station. Because again, it's one of those things that I like to, if I click on a sim and see them walking around the city, I like to know which police station it is that they're working at or that they're going to. So yeah, there we go. I always do that. Slightly pointless, I realise, but that's just the way I like it. So there we go, we've got our first district. Now, one other name that I did want to do as well was for the forestry areas. So we had a great suggestion come in from Max Emil Oddmoland to call it Fur Trade. Love that. So yeah, because of all our Douglas firs, we are going to call this Fur Trade Inc. Love that name. Thank you so much for all of the other suggestions as well that came in. And yeah, we still need plenty more, so I'm still looking for one really for this big generic factory area, so please let me know if there's any suggestions for that. We also need one actually for the high school and for this side. Please do leave any suggestions in the comments. Again, I'm kind of going down some kind of leafy green tree theme in general, but other ideas totally welcome, like Siobhan Williams. Absolutely love that idea. So yeah, thank you so much to all of the suggestions so far. But yeah, keep them coming. So first things first, for today we are in absolute desperate need of a residential expansion. As you can see from over here, we've got worker warnings going off like crazy. So I'm actually not even going to unpause the game just yet. I'm going to come over here and get some road networks in, zone in some residential, and we'll come back and fix it up later on. But just to try and avoid getting all of our buildings abandoned, this is what we'll do first. So just coming in here with the road network, thinking about forward planning as well, I do want this road to continue on round because we're going to have some oil industry out here in this oil field. So I'd like to ideally have another fairly main road connection other than people having to travel through the roundabout up there. So we need to bring this road up and round and underneath this highway. So I'm just literally going to sweep it across like that. I'm going to use Anarchy to get it in under that road for now, and then just carry it on straight out the other side, and we can use Move It to adjust this node downwards. Now the only trouble with this is that we need to get to a population of 2,600 to unlock highways. So at the moment this is going to look terrible until we can get that highway road in and change those to raised highways. So yeah, ignore that clipping for now, we will come back and fix that. But let's just to tidy it up for now, let's just use Move It to slope these roads here. And again, same thing the other side. Okay, and again, just thinking about connections, the other road that I would also like to bring in across this highway is this one here, which I think makes sense because it comes down from the main high street here all the way through this residential area. So I think it makes sense to bring this across. And this time I will just do this with a simple raised bridge. So we'll just go up and over that highway. So then what we will do as well is make a further residential expansion around here. So I'm going to go back to using the unmarked suburban roads, and we're just going to bring this out and round again in a not straight lines, just a kind of flowy grid pattern. We don't want the houses too close to the highway up there, so we're just going to bend it round. I think what we'll do is we'll come off here like so, have that going straight a little bit, and then we'll bring it in this way, just like that. Then I'm going to put in just one cul-de-sac actually over here, and then a couple of cul-de-sacs coming off of this main road, like so. Now there is quite a neat little trick that we can do. I'm just going to clear out the trees while I think about it as well, so we don't get any trees poking through where we don't want when I inadvertently, as always, forget to turn off tree anarchy. So yeah, there's quite a neat little trick that we can do with these cul-de-sacs, and I did do one of them over here, but you wouldn't have seen it because I cut it from the video because there was too much to show. But there's two ways that you can do this, so to make a nice end to these cul-de-sacs. So the first way is to use multi-network tool to add in a extra node as close to the end of the road as you can get it, and then use node controller to come in here and adjust this end. So I'm going to change the stretch here to 150% like so, and that just gives us a nice rounded little end. So I'm going to do exactly the same here, just add in that node as close to the end as you can get, and then with multi-network tool, and then use node controller right at the end there, change the stretch to 150%, and there we go. Now the other way you can do it if you don't have multi-network tool and you don't have node controller, but you would still need Move It for this, I would add, so it's not completely limited to no mods at all. I'll just bring that slightly further back. Is to use a 4-lane road. You just put in the smallest piece you can right at the end of the road like that, and then use Move It to bring it as far back as possible, getting rid of those lines, and that just gives you a little curved end to it. And then if you do have Traffic Manager and hide the crosswalks mod, then you can come in and turn off the crosswalks like so. And that just gets rid of those markings there to make it quite a nice end to your cul-de-sac. So there's two ways that you can get that same effect, depending on what mods you do have. So I'm going to go ahead and zone in lots of residential here, and I'm not going to worry too much about this at the moment because we desperately need people. So I'm just going to get them in, and then we will come back through later and tidy it all up. And so there we go. So I will click play now and see where we get to. I think we're going to get some abandoned buildings, but we'll let it run and we'll see what happens. And what I want to do now is concentrate on this waterfront. So we're going to get some more residential in along here, but also decorate out this particular area. But first things first, what we are going to do, and I mentioned it in the last episode, is we need a bit more park coverage down in this particular area. So we are going to put in a park here. And what I would like to do is actually just bring it off this main road. So it's not sitting up against this one, but sitting off a back road coming off this road. So what we'll do is we'll take the 1 unit road, come off here like so, and bring it back round like that. Obviously this terrain is a little bit slopey here, so it is going to be quite hard to work with. But if we bring that up to the level there, then we've got a nice, reasonably gentle slope going up the street there. So that should work okay. So then what I'm going to do is just plop in the normal small playground into here, like so. And then what I'm going to do is, because we've just got the vanilla playground here and it's a little bit boring to look at, I'm actually going to extend it a little bit. So first things first, what I'm going to do is bring out a gravel road to make a couple of additional entrances to the park, just like so, which just helps to add a little extra dimension to it. And then what we will do is use Surface Painter just to extend out the park a little bit here to make essentially another little playground area, just so it's not quite such a uniform square space. And it helps to change it up, because then when you use these vanilla assets continuously across your city build, you've got slightly different areas, so it doesn't look totally like you're just using the same asset repeatedly. So we're going to go ahead and find some playground props. So yeah, like another climbing frame, for example, wouldn't go amiss here, and a swing set, I think, is what we'll do. Just keep it relatively simple like that, and then potentially add in one more bench, just like so. So it just helps to give a little bit of variation to that vanilla asset. And then what we need to come through and do is decorate it up with a little bit of fence. So I'm going to just take nature reserve fence that fits quite well with this rural town theme that we've got going in this particular area, and I'm going to just place them in round this like so, a little bit in the front across those two entrances there, and then all the way down to just about there, because I do want to do something with this district recycling hub while we're here as well. I'm just going to use a little bit of park fencing to give this an edge. And then what I'm going to do is use the brush tool. So rather than surface painter, this is just a little bit neater, especially for filling in small square areas like this. I'm just going to use this brush tool just to fill in the surface here. And then what I'm going to do on the end here is actually add some more car parking spaces. Because it's not on a parking lot road, I'm just going to use the vanilla ones, which does mean that cars can't actually use it. Which is a massive shame, I would add. Like, I really wish that they'd change that up, because it would be good if they could use it, if you could plop these in. But I'm going to put these down like so, and then I have got some car assets, some car props just to place in, so it can look like someone's actually parked here. So we'll just do 2 of those, just to make it look like it is actually being used, even though unfortunately it isn't properly. And then what I do want is another path connection through here, so I'll just use a little bit of pavement path to connect that up there. And just use Move It to tidy up that connection. There we go. And then what I would like is just one more path, I think, running down the side here. And again, we'll use pavement path for that, so it doesn't look like it's part of that playground area, just like so. And then final thing, just to tidy it up, is a little bit of foliage and trees. So now it does look like a standard park area, but just slightly different to the vanilla asset that you'd just ordinarily plop in without too much thought about it. So the next thing I want to do is concentrate on this waterfront here, and the terrain is a little bit bumpy. So first things first, what I am going to do is just smooth out the terrain against this road and push it back a little bit. Just like so we'll do for now. So now in terms of the assets that I want to use here, so we've got a lot of, so we need to still come out and sort this area out, granted, but over here, this is the type of thing we want in this area, which is bungalows, low rise, low density residential, that kind of look and feel to it. But up against the waterfront, what I'd quite like to do is put a few more assets that look a little bit like townhouses and that sort of thing. So there are some assets which I have culled from that other area because they just absolutely weren't suitable, which I actually think would work really well down here. One of those is this Art Deco house, which, yeah, I think looks all right as a waterfront property as well, because when we look at the detail on it, they've got that little table and chairs out the front. There's not much going on in the back of it as well, so it's all very centred around the view to the front. So I feel like they'd go well as a waterfront property. So what we're going to do is have a little bit of a repeated pattern of these along the front. And then what I would like to do is to take a 1 unit road. I've got a different townhouse asset that I'd like to do again in a pretty similar repeated pattern down here. But we'll just take a 1 unit road with parking on one side, again just to help us with that parking situation. We'll bring that out to there and then just bring that straight back. And I think we're going to adjust the distance for that in a second, but I think that feels about right. And again, the terrain is a bit bumpy here, so we do just need to watch out for that and make sure things are levelled nicely. So the other asset that I'd like to put in here is another one that looks like a townhouse, has that same similar type of vibe, which is, yeah, this one. So there's a few of these that we could use here just to change it up a little bit. These are all kind of semi-detached townhouses, both of these two assets, so I think they work pretty well. So what we can do is we'll do a little repeated pattern of these smaller ones. In fact, actually, I think I will change it up, and what I will do is put these slightly longer buildings on this side. So we'll just have 2 of these like so there. And then we'll move these up so these buildings start at this point. And what we can do actually is have a little bit of an alleyway back through there. So we can certainly do that. So I think we'll put 3 of these together like so. and then we'll have a slight break and put another 3 of those together. And then what we'll do with this road is we will bring it right up close behind these houses. So there we go, we've got some larger, slightly more grander townhouses there, three-layer townhouses, and then some slightly smaller assets as well. Now they do look a little bit over. Oh, we've reached Boomtown, so there we go. Okay, we've hit our 2,600 population milestone. So with this is one thing that I absolutely want to bring into the build today, which is trams. So we're definitely going to get some public transportation in, and yeah, the first option for me, and doing it on this waterfront as well, is definitely trams. Okay, now in this section, what I would like to do is incorporate a library, which is something that we haven't actually put in yet. Now, the vanilla library is a little bit deep, to be honest, for this particular location. So if I put that in, you can see here, it's really, really digging into that terrain. So it's just not really suitable for this location. So in this case, I am going to use a workshop asset, which I will also put in the asset collection. You can find the link for that in the description below. But it's a really, really nice library asset off the workshop, which is this one. So we're going to go ahead and plop that in. What I would like to put next to it though is 2 plazas. So again, just upping our park area as well, which will help with levelling up and the such like. So I'm going to go ahead and put 1 in either side. Now we need to sort out the terrain here because it's going to look, yeah, pretty awful as you can see over there. So let's move the library up slightly. Move these right up close so we've got 1 nicely either side of them, and then we will use the landscaping tools just to make sure we've got absolutely smooth terrain here, so pushing that right back as far as we can go. So I just think the library looks really nice up against that waterfront there, and particularly with the plazas next to it, it helps to space it out a little bit. So what we can do here as well is bring in some more car parks. So now in order to decorate it up, what I'm going to use is some curbside planters, so curb props, which I think comes in the curb prop pack. Again, you can find this in the asset list if you are interested. So I'm going to use Propline tool just to get these in. And if we make the distance slightly closer together, they overlap quite nicely, so it looks like one big planter. And then what we will do is just use Move It to pick those up like so and just adjust that over so it's right up against the edge of the car park and sitting quite nicely in the middle there. And then what we'll do is put in some small bushes just to add a bit of extra foliage to it, like so. Just very simple like that. And then what we'll do is we'll use Move It to copy all of that and place it exactly the same in the other side, so we get a nice mirroring effect there. And now with these houses as well, I'd just like to add in a tiny bit more detail here where they've got these tables out the front, and I can use Bob to get rid of them, but I actually don't want to. I think what we're going to do is we're going to use a brick wall prop. Again, this is one off the workshop, so it will be in the asset collection if you are interested in it. But what we'll do is we'll just set it out in front of the property like this, adjoining it to the hedge. So it just gives a little bit of a kind of privacy element to each of these houses. So again, we'll just use Move It and we'll copy that over and put these out the front of all of these houses. So I think that just helps to add a little bit of extra detailing to the front of these houses. And so just looking at the back of the houses as well, there's a little bit of extra detailing needed here because we can see we've got the doors there and it comes out onto absolutely nothing. So what I am going to do is extend these hedges down using just a small hedge like this, which is a vanilla hedge. It just comes, if you've got Find It, you can get it and plop it in. So it's just the same hedge that they've got there, and we'll just extend that down in each case. And then we'll also again come through with the brush tool, and I'm thinking actually what we will do is give them little paved backyards here, like so, just so that it looks like it's connected and it makes sense up against the road like that. So I'll copy that down to each of these. There we go. So I've just put in some hedges along the back as well to give them a little bit more privacy. And then the final element that we can do to these little back gardens is to add some more props in. Now the props that come on Find It with vanilla for residential gardens are honestly pretty rubbish. So there is a prop pack available, which you can find in the asset list as well, that gives a few more residential options, so like these tables and a patio umbrella, for example, that sort of thing. And actually things like, yeah, an extra barbecue, why not, let's put that in, a dog house, lots of pretty cute things like that. So we can just add a few of these in. So yeah, that finishes off these little blocks of residential. I don't think anything more is really needed for those, but what we definitely do need to do is sort out that terrain at the back. So what I'd like to do here is actually introduce a little bit of walkable quays, so from the content creator pack. So I think I'm going to use just the simple seawall one, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring it down along behind these houses. So we're going to create essentially a walkable, very thin strip park area behind the low density residential here, but up to the back of these houses. So creating this kind of retaining wall almost up to the back of this little road here. And now before I forget, we did unlock with the levelling up our child healthcare clinic, so I would like to come and put that in here because I just want to make sure we've got room for it, which we almost don't. So let's just use move it, bring that right up to the edge there, and there's space to move the medical clinic over as well. Now this key, I will just straighten this up here, so that looks a little bit neater up against the child healthcare clinic. We'll just bring it back a tiny touch, and then we will use a pavement path just to make sure that's connected so people can walk across there. And yeah, because we're using keys, there will be a little bit of frustration with the terrain trying to match that up perfectly, but that'll be fine. They'll be able to walk on that. So yeah, I have actually just switched out this bit to have the stairs in it. So we've got walkability down from the top level to the bottom, and also just put in another point there so there's a bit more access. And then the final thing I will do just to make sure that they can walk down from these bottom of these quays is just add in a sneaky little bit of path here at the back coming down from the quay and round the side of the library. So I mean that's actually, we'll just move that over so it's on the Park Plaza there. So they're not literally walking through the library, but I think we'll get away with that. They might walk through a tree or something, but that'll be absolutely fine. So we've got the key in, and I've just seen that we're having an absolutely massive death wave, because one thing we did unlock with that last level is, of course, death care. So I'm going to come over here and put in a cemetery before it's hopefully too late. So let's just pause the game before we start losing any more residents. So I'm going to put the cemetery out here. I'm just going to use a gravel road to come off the main road like so. And then what we'll do is just plop in our cemetery. I think as far up as we can get it that way. Yeah, like so. And the terrain is still a little bit janky there. So let's just make sure we've got that absolutely smooth. Use a slightly bigger brush there. Yeah, that'll be fine. And then what I would like to do again, just for the parking AI, is bring in just another little car park, and we'll use the poorly maintained one here for sure. And finally, just for a little bit of decoration in this area, I'm just going to bring in a tiny bit of nature reserve fence just to border this off. Okay, so that will do for our little cemetery area for now, and hopefully that'll help to get rid of some of this massive death wave that we're having. We've got loads of abandoned buildings, so I'm going to have to come through and sort that out. That was me completely neglecting my city there and getting carried away with tiny micro detailing. It's quite often the case for me, but we'll fix that. That'll be fine. So now just looking at the waterfront as well, what I would like to do is bring in a tram network here. And what I am thinking is that it is going to run up alongside the front of this road all the way along. So it's going to be not putting it on the main road, but actually a separate tram track. And then we'll do a little bit of decoration next to it down by the beach. So we're going to put in quays alongside it. So yeah, what we want to do is get the tram track. And what I'm actually going to do is use the parallel road tool in multi-network. So now we can't go quite that far because it's saying it's not connected up oddly. So what we will do is go just down like so. There we go, we're getting the tram track right next to it. So again, what I will do here is select this node and we'll go up as far as we can. There we go. Now what I want to do down here is actually bring it out slightly. So what we will do is go straight up, and then I'm actually just going to come straight out. We're going to use move it to sort this in a second. Down like this, and then again staying parallel to that road there, Now the height needs to be massively sorted out. This will be tricky with the train here, but not impossible. So again, we'll just level these out, make sure these are exactly the same height as here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to follow this round with some quays. Okay, so we've got the quays in. I've joined up the tram track here. So what we will do with the tram is continue it on round up here and then probably across into these districts. Still to come later in the series. We will also take it up the main street and down through to the industrial area as well to give access to there, and we'll also continue it to the oil area. We'll have a small residential development around the oil area as well out here, so that'll just bring access to them into this main centre for this particular suburb. But what I do want to work on now is actually, again, forward planning for transport options. Because there's an awful lot of water in this map and we're going to have the downtown round over here, I would like to have a ferry network going. So a ferry stop down in this particular suburb would be really useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to do some work with the quays. This may or may not work out. I have tested it a little bit and it was pretty tricky to get in place, but we are going to give it another go. But I'm going to bring the ferry terminal down here, the ferry stop down here. So what I want to do is create a road round the quays, something like so. We'll just plop in the ferry stop so that we know that we've got it, and then we can use move it to get everything into place. So I'm just going to lower this road down so that it slopes down and move it in right close up to this quay. So we move it right in there. We've got the connection there. We can come in and fill in these areas with detail later, but what we want is that road sloping right down with that quay wall right up next to it, because I like the effect that brings when you do that. So we've got the ferry terminal in. It's a little bit high at the moment, so I will just lower that down. So it's a little bit closer to the water's edge, because sometimes when you get the ferries in, you've probably seen people jump in on and off. So I want to try and avoid that as much as possible. This, if anything, is actually probably a little bit low now. So let's just bring it up a tiny bit more. And I'm going to kind of guess that that should be okay, but we can, of course, come back and adjust that at another time. So what I want to do here is as well put in a bit more detailing with the quays. So we're going to go back and use exactly the same quay again. I'm just going to place in, I'm going to pause it for a second so we don't interrupt the water. I'm just going to place in a little bit like so, and then use move it to get into place. So over here, what I want is it adjoining to this quay, but at a slightly lower level. And then coming up to here. In fact, actually, while I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to upgrade it to the one with the stairs so that we've got access down. And see if I can make sure if I move the correct node there. Okay, so there we go. That was pretty tricky, actually. I've levelled out the ground behind, pushed it down a little bit so it's all around down that quay. I've pulled the ground down at the front as well, so hopefully that water, when it settles down a little bit, will sit nicely against the lower level of the quay there. So it could almost be like a little, you could put in some boat props or a little jetty or something like that to make it into a bit of just a very small harbour. Now, what I'd like to do the other side as well is use quays again here, just to decorate that up. So I'm going to come through with the same quay. I don't want it snapping onto anything, so we'll turn off node snapping. And then, yeah, using the same quay again, we'll just plop some in like so, and then up to the road like that. Now, what I'm going to do here, because this doesn't quite fill the gap, is I'm actually going to use node controller to make this a bigger node. So if I increase that to about 300%, we'll test this first and see if this fits, and then come back and adjust it. Yeah, so that is too wide, so we'll just go back to node controller, change that to 250 and see how that fits in, because I want it to fit into this gap perfectly. So it's like you're driving down behind these really nice rustic roads in between that to get to the ferry terminal, to the harbour. So that's the type of thing that I want to go for here. So again, we can just come through with this node as well and make this one slightly wider to smooth it out. So if we click that node there, again, we'll make this, let's do it up to 150% at the moment and see if that fits in nicely with the road. And we've got a tiny bit of the terrain sneaking through there, but I'm fine with that. We can come and tidy that up with Surface Painter. Okay, so for now, that will do fine. We'll come through and tidy up these little areas with some detailing later on. But for now, that's okay. Now, concentrating on the other side as well, I really don't want this edge to be like this, but we don't have too many options here, because if we use node controller on this, it also increases the width of the bottom layer, which I don't want to do. So what I'm actually going to use here is something from the workshop, which are these concrete blocks. And they're just a very basic prop. So what we'll do is I'll place one in here and then just use move it to get it down to the right height so it matches the height of the quay. It is going to look like a slightly different surface, but that's okay. It's the best we can really do for here, so I'm fine with that. And we'll go ahead and place in another one and just get that down to the same height as the other and just move that into place. Like so. So at least we've got, it's a slightly different change in the wall texture. It's not the absolute ideal, but for the tools that we've got here, that's not too bad. So what I will do as well is just copy and paste these and put some more in. Okay, so there we go. So yeah, I kind of think for a little bit of a makeshift platform, it doesn't look too bad there. So we'll do a lot of detailing around this area and make this into a bit of a forecourt. But the other thing that I do want to do is just try and connect these up with a bit of a bridge. Okay, so there we go. So that is connected. Again, that was a super fiddly, super fiddly, and not ideal, but it is done. I've just seen that street lamp poking through there as well. So let's just go ahead and move this road out a little bit so we don't get that. Lovely. So we do have a path connection in, so they could technically, we'll join it up there, they could technically walk all the way down this quay and down onto this bottom bit. Whether they actually will or not, I'm not too sure, but we will put some assets in here and try and encourage them to do that, because that would be cool if we can see the Sims coming down that far. But let's not hold our breath on that for the moment. But I think all in all it looks okay. It's fitted in quite well, so what we will do is come back through with a load of detailing for these particular areas and all around the tram track and tram turn around there as well. But next up, what I would like to do is just think about this waterfront here. What I would like to do with that is to make it a rocky waterfront. So we're going to use some rock decals to essentially cover up this beach area a little bit, because we can't push the train back any further because the tram track being there lifts it up. So we're always going to have that cliff edge there. So I just think a little bit of extra detail will help cover that up to a point. So there we go. So we have got a little bit of the sand poking through, which I don't mind too much. I think it kind of adds to the texture there. The little bits have ruined, so it's not just solid rock all the way up. Helps to add a little bit of colour, I think, to the beach area. For now, that will do just for the immediate waterfront. So the next thing we want to do is concentrate on a little bit of other detail around here. So I'd definitely like to put a path up the side here to actually another car park. So just like so. So I mean, it is a steep path, but it's there and it works. And I think you'd expect a steep path going down a cliff of that size anyway. And we've got a power line there that I do need to just sort out. It's bringing power down to the ferry, which I think is connected now, yeah, thanks to the car park. So that's all good. And I will, just before I forget as well, turn off the ferry because we're not going to be using it yet. So we may as well save the budget and have it turned off rather than keeping it open when there's no connection. Okay, and then the final thing I want to do before just jumping into detailing is also to add just a little bit of extra layer of height up here. So we have got the lower down quays, we've got these houses here, the townhouses, then we've got the slightly higher up row of quays, but I feel like what we need here is just a couple of taller buildings just to help make this, I don't want to say skyline, because it's definitely not a downtown skyline, but to help the skyline of this small town just pop just a little bit more, I think we need a couple of taller buildings here. So we haven't actually got to the stage where we've unlocked high density yet, but because we've got Find It and Rico Revisited, we can actually plop them in already. So what I am thinking is we're going to have just a couple of buildings right here. So I'm going to grab our 1 unit road, just a standard 1 unit road, and bring it out of here. I'm not going to worry about these houses for the time being. I'll just bring it out like so and bring it along down this way. In fact, actually what I will do as well is just go back into parking lot roads and use some of those. We'll use the well-maintained ones now because these will be some quite nice looking housing here. So we'll do that. We'll just clear out these houses from here for now and remove the zoning so we don't have anything growing back in. Now if we move this I'm thinking leave a little bit of green border between it and the quay, but move it a little bit closer like so. Now the asset that I'd like to use here is actually a high density green cities residential, which is this one. So it's not too tall, but it's just tall enough to add a little bit of extra height. Oh, and our park has made level 2. Fantastic. So we've got the chessboard and the piers. We're not going to put any of those into our city park down there because it is just far too small an area in the Siobhan Williams Park. So yeah, we are just going to put in a couple of these buildings, and I'm thinking I might do just one of them that's slightly taller than the other, but I don't want to go overboard with this at all. And I think actually, just looking at it, we will just have one more. We'll go for one of the slightly lower buildings, I think, to go in there and just move that up just a tiny bit. Now we also have to look at the decals around it because they've got fencing in here, and what we will do is build upon that. So we've got those fencing available in Find It, so we will build that out in the detailing time lapse using the same fencing to create yards for each individual building there. So now you can see when we look at it, we've just got that tiny bit of extra height, which I think really helps to make this waterfront pop. Just that little bit more. So yeah, I'm liking that. I am wondering if we should have maybe a couple more just down this end as well. So I will use exactly the same building and just put them in their own little development down here. So there we go. And I think just I did just set one of them off to a different angle because I think when you look at it from back here as well, it just helps to add a little bit of interest if they're not all so straight and uniform, because we've got very straight uniform houses all the way up this front here. So to have a little bit of slight variation in height but also angle, I think helps to add a bit of interest to that skyline there. So now just before we come along and do all the detailing up this waterfront, what I would like to do is put in our tram tracks and get them going so that we can see them moving around the town. So the first route that I would like to have is going to go out to this oil field out here. So I'm just going to delete that back slightly. We're going to use the tram road again, the Solus tram road, and just put that in, and we're going to connect it up to this junction here and have it come back into the main road here. And wow. Anyone fancy a tram ride down there? Yeah, let's fix that. So there we go. And then we'll continue the tram line on down this way. And what I will do for now is just do a really, really basic turn around here so that we can get the trams in and get them on the route. But this will all change when we come to develop up this area. So the trams will come from there all the way down the main high street, and we'll have an interchange here. Now the other tram route that I do want to have as forming at this interchange here is one that goes up this main high street all the way into the industry. So coming back up to here to go round our roundabout. Now I am using the Vanilla Plus Plus roads connection. So for that we do have lots of different tram options. So we've got this 3-lane, because we're using a 3-lane round the roundabout at the moment. We've got this 3-lane road with tram track on the near side. So this is what we are going to use round the roundabout so that the trams can just travel around the roundabout with the other cars as well. And of course we do want to come back into Traffic Manager and make sure that's all set up properly. Like so. So here what we'll do as well is upgrade this to the tram road. So continuing on down to here. And then I'm actually going to put the tram depot out here and form part of this industrial type complex. And that can be the end of our line there. With that, I'll go ahead and put some tram stops in. So we definitely want one up here for the industrial area, and we'll come through in a second and join that all up with paths so they have got easy access. I'm going to avoid actually putting one here, so we'll probably have an underpass that brings them all the way out into this industrial area. So I'll avoid putting one on this main road just because of the amount of industrial traffic that's on it. I don't want loads of pedestrians crossing the road. But we will then introduce one over here. And likewise, we're going to have quite a few down here, I think, just so that we've got easy access for all of these residents, because there's nothing flowing through the individual residential suburbs at the moment. And then what we will do is bring this down and into our tram exchange like so, and then just really simply bring it back and mirror those stops all the way to the end. So for our second one, we'll actually start over here at the cemetery. We'll have a stop there. We'll have another stop off the main road just here, so that'll be access for these residents there. Oh, they're all happy. Well, that's fantastic. We'll also have another stop just here. Again, we'll make sure we've got crossings in here so that people can get across to it. And then we'll come into the tram interchange like so. And we're actually just going to stop at the same point there. And then what we will do as well is continue it on down this way. So we'll have one here with access to the park and to the elementary school. Then we'll have another one up here for these residential neighbourhoods. And then again, same as last time, we'll just mirror those stops all the way back. So I think for today that just leaves us with a lot of detailing here along the waterfront. So my plan for that is I'm going to detail around all of these houses here. We're going to introduce some of the same fence and the same hedge to extend yard areas out for these with playgrounds, play equipment, that sort of thing. We're going to make sure everything's connected with paths so that there's lots of walkability down onto these quays. We'll certainly put in some backyards for these houses here and a bit of foliage, some nice repeated tree pattern, I think, going all the way along the top quay here. And what we will do as well is come around this suburb and select all of the assets. So there's lots of them that I don't want here. So these are actually workshop assets, which I should have taken out of the game, but we'll remove those. And we're going for more houses like this. So I think I will have quite a few of the American Eclectic pack, which is that house is from there, and more of the vanilla pack like these. So kind of looking at mostly 2-storey homes, I think, as opposed to the bungalows that we had on the other side in Woodhaven. So yeah, like these houses, great, we'll keep those. We'll have a few bungalows in. And then you see we've got 3 assets all exactly the same like this, which works in some situations, but here that's just too much repetition. So I'll go through and change all of those up. And we'll detail in and around these neighbourhoods. I'm not going to put too many yards into here. I'm going to leave this a bit more open, but we're going to decorate up all this area in between the houses to have little play areas, paths all the way through, and certainly a lot more trees, bushes, woodland, that sort of thing. And we'll certainly come in and place houses around these cul-de-sacs at the end as well. Now for the waterfront, my plan is to put some planters all the way along. So again, a nice repeated pattern of planters with trees. I think we'll also introduce some amusement park fence because I like the way that looks as well. So if we just have a look at that now, you can see the colours on the amusement park fence are actually really, really nice. So if I just bring that in, you can see it's that sort of reddy orangey colour, which I think just helps to break up a lot of this grey. And adds a bit of protection for that tram track and a bit of decoration along the tram track. We'll do some focus things around the stops as well. So we'll put in some items which make it look like ticket booths. We'll of course come in and detail up here and all of our ferry stop that we can see here as well. So with that, I will go into a time lapse and I will be right back. Okay, so that was a hell of a lot of detailing. But I think we are there. So yeah, just to run through what I did, down by the ferry terminal here, we've just added in a little pier, and I'm kind of hoping people will go down there and use it, but we'll see. We shall see. It doesn't seem like anyone is walking down here. Oh no, I say that. We have got a couple of people walking down here. That's quite exciting. I'm going to see where they get to. Because I've extended the Siobhan Williams Park area down here so that we can put these up park assets here. So I'm hoping people will come across and use them. And they are! That is so exciting. It's actually working. Brilliant. Brilliant. So yeah, we've just put in the park cafe, the park toilets, and a couple of the props that come with the city park down here just to decorate that up. I've also actually started to introduce some of the organic and local produce from the Green Cities DLC here, just the little market stalls, just to fill in those bare gaps there. I thought looked all right opposite the park. And then here we have detailed in here, we've put one of the park information booths here opposite the tram interchange, and lots of flower beds, benches, that sort of thing for decoration. Then a few more Green Cities market stalls actually added in as well. We've also put a lot of planters along the front, along with the amusement park fence, and then a repeated tree pattern going all the way along the front here, along with a couple of benches dotted around for good measure. And then we also have, for each of the tram stops, have decorated that out with a bit of tiling, used these props to kind of try and make them look a little bit like ticket booths, that sort of thing, and a few benches for people waiting. I also changed up this road to the tree median road. I just thought that looked a little bit nicer up against the waterfront, added a bit of extra greenery in here as well. So in terms of the residential as well, I've added in quite a bit. So I have done some backyards for the houses out here with the highway at their back door, which I thought was needed. You wouldn't just have a house going straight out onto the highway. I've done a few yards here and there dotted around these central park areas. So just a couple of little details just for added effect in the middle of all these houses. So a very small playground here, just using the props, not an actual playground. Yeah, reorganised all of these houses. So gone through and historicalised all of them and selected the assets. So it's mostly the American Eclectic pack that we've done here, but otherwise adding in similar houses from vanilla as well. So such as this one here. And then for here as well, we have decorated in around these high density houses just to give them little gardens. Just a few shrubs and flower beds, an odd tree and some benches. That was all that was really needed here, as well as fencing in those areas. And then for these houses, of course, we have given them a hedge backing as well, just to frame that off nicely against this walkable quay, which is so good to see so many people using it. It's that's pretty marvellous. Add in a couple more of the park life props here as well. And then exactly the same thing with these high rises here. These car parks are absolutely rammed. I'm going to have a look at parking at some point and make sure that we are all okay on it. So yeah, I think that is going to do for today. So I am liking how this is shaped up, actually, with a few different layers of height, the different layers of the quay as well, I think has worked really well. And this bit over here, I mean, it has literally taken me hours to sort it, but I am pretty pleased with the results, and the fact that people are walking across there, I'm super happy with actually getting used. So yeah, I'm quite liking how this has turned out here. So in terms of next episode, we have got absolutely massive demand for jobs again, and we also, within that detailing time lapse, we reached a population of 5,000, which unlocks the oil specialisation. So we will be coming through and putting an area of that in next time to add some more jobs and extend that tram route further down the road this way. But for now, that will do for today. So thank you ever so much for tuning in again. And, you know, just to reiterate, I am absolutely overwhelmed with the support that we've had on the first few episodes. So if you have enjoyed this, please do leave a like, consider subscribing so you get the next episode, hit that notification bell, and of course drop me a comment if you've got any suggestions. We do need a name for this waterfront district, this district on the left hand side here, and we could also name the harbour as well. So let me know if there's any suggestions for that. Otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.